Her name was JonBenét Ramsey. She was a little girl with a big smile. She was only 6 years old. She loved to perform in beauty pageants. Her blonde hair and bright eyes made her memorable. She lived in a large house in Boulder, Colorado. She had a mother named Patsy. She had a father named John. She also had an older brother named Burke. To the world, they seemed like a perfect American family. Their lives were filled with success and happiness. But behind closed doors, a terrible secret was waiting. Something awful was about to happen that would change everything forever. The Christmas of 1996 was supposed to be a happy time. The Ramsey family celebrated just like any other. They had parties and presents. JonBenét was excited for the holiday, but this Christmas would be her last. Just one day after the celebration, she would disappear. Her disappearance would turn into a murder investigation. This case would capture the attention of the entire world. It would become one of the most famous and debated unsolved mysteries in modern history. The story of what happened to this little girl is filled with confusing clues and unanswered questions. Yet, the mystery of JonBenét's death remains. The story is a tragedy that continues to haunt us. The day after Christmas in 1996 started with panic. Patsy Ramsey woke up early that morning. She went downstairs to the kitchen. She said she found something on the back staircase. It was a piece of paper. It was a long, handwritten note. The note said that her daughter, JonBenét, had been kidnapped. It claimed a small foreign faction had taken her. It demanded a ransom of $118,000. This was a very specific amount. It was almost the exact amount of a bonus John Ramsey had recently received from his work. The note warned them not to call the police. Patsy Ramsey screamed. She ran to check JonBenét's room. The little girl was not in her bed. Patsy immediately called 911. She told the operator that her daughter was gone. She said there was a ransom note. This phone call was the first official record of the crisis. Police officers were dispatched to the Ramsey home, friend's family. They started arriving at the house. The home, which should have been a protected crime scene, quickly filled with people. This would become a major problem for the investigation later on. Later that day, a detective asked John Ramsey to search the house again. John went down to the basement with a family friend. In a small dark room known as the wine cellar, he made a horrifying discovery. The ransom note was one of the most puzzling pieces of evidence. It was very long, spanning almost 3 full pages. This was unusual for a ransom note. Most are short and to the point. This one was rambling and full of strange phrases. It was written on a notepad that belonged to the Ramsey family. The pen used to write it was also found inside the house. This suggested that whoever wrote the note had spent a significant amount of time inside the home. The note demanded $118,000, a very specific sum that mirrored John Ramsey's recent work bonus. Investigators immediately became suspicious of the note's origin. Handwriting experts were called in to analyze it. They compared the writing on the note to samples from Patsy Ramsey. They compared the writing on the note to samples from John Ramsey. The results were not definitive. Some experts believed there were similarities to Patsy's handwriting. Others disagreed. The language of the note was also strange. It used the phrase, "We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction." It used the phrase, "Don't try to grow a brain." It seemed to quote lines from movies like Dirty Harry. It seemed to quote lines from the movie Speed. This made it feel less like a real ransom demand and more like something staged. The length of the note was also a major point of contention. It took a long time to write. Police wondered why a kidnapper would take such a risk, but no call ever came. The real crime was much closer to home. The basement of the Ramsey home was where the tragedy was discovered. This area became the primary crime scene. JonBenét's body was found in the wine cellar, a small, windowless room. She had a nylon cord tied tightly around her neck. This cord was attached to a broken paintbrush handle. The paintbrush belonged to Patsy Ramsey. It had been taken from her art supply kit. This device, known as a garrote, was used to strangle her. She also had a skull fracture from a heavy blow to the head. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. Several pieces of crucial evidence were found in the basement. Near JonBenét's body, investigators found a bowl of pineapple. The pineapple was in a bowl on the kitchen table upstairs, along with a spoon. An autopsy later revealed that JonBenét had undigested pineapple in her stomach. Her parents initially told police that she had not eaten anything after they came home from a Christmas party. Her brother Burke was also questioned. His fingerprints were found on the bowl. This piece of evidence suggested that JonBenét had been awake and eating a snack not long before she died. Another key discovery was a broken window in the basement. A suitcase was placed directly beneath it. This seemed to suggest a possible entry point for an intruder. However, the window was covered in a spider web that was largely undisturbed. There were no footprints in the snow outside the window. Some investigators believed the scene was staged to look like a break-in. Unidentified male DNA was found in her underwear and under her fingernails. This DNA did not match anyone in the Ramsey family. The crime scene itself was compromised from the beginning, making it difficult to know for sure what each piece of evidence truly meant. The intruder theory suggests an unknown person broke into the Ramsey home. This person then killed JonBenét. This theory is supported by several key pieces of evidence. The most significant is the male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. This DNA has never been identified. It does not belong to any member of the Ramsey family. For years, this has been the strongest argument that someone from outside the house was the killer. The broken basement window and the suitcase placed beneath it also point to a possible break-in. Proponents of this theory believe an intruder entered silently, committed the crime, and then wrote the ransom note to mislead police. Over the years, several potential suspects have been investigated. One was a man named Bill McReynolds. He was a local man who dressed as Santa Claus. He had visited the Ramsey home 2 days before the murder. JonBenét had reportedly been very comfortable with him. After the murder, his wife wrote a play about a child being molested and murdered in a basement. This raised suspicion. However, McReynolds passed a polygraph test and provided DNA samples that did not match the evidence. He was eventually cleared. Another person of interest was a local electrician who had done work at the house. He was also investigated, but ultimately ruled out. A major development in the intruder theory came in 2006. A man named John Mark Carr confessed to the murder. He was a school teacher living in Thailand. He was arrested and brought back to the United States. His DNA did not match the sample found at the crime scene. The family theory: someone inside the Ramsey house responsible for JonBenét's death. This theory suggests the kidnapping was a hoax, created to cover up what really happened. Police were suspicious of John Ramsey. Police were suspicious of Patsy Ramsey. Their behavior on the morning of December 26th seemed strange to some. The crime scene was contaminated. They hired lawyers, they hired a public relations firm very quickly. Many people saw these actions as signs of guilt. Police and the public scrutinized the family intensely. They were tried in the court of public opinion long before official charges. One version says Patsy Ramsey killed her daughter in a fit of rage. This idea suggests JonBenét had a bedwetting problem. Perhaps Patsy became angry about a late-night accident and struck her daughter. The blow to the head may have been accidental, but it was fatal. In a panic, Patsy staged the rest of the scene. She wrote the ransom note. She created the garrote to mimic a sexual predator. Handwriting similarities fueled the theory. Another version focuses on Burke. He was 9 years old at the time. This theory suggests Burke might have accidentally killed his sister. The story says he was angry about a piece of pineapple. In childish anger, he may have hit her over the head with a heavy object like a flashlight. John Ramsey then discovered what happened. Patsy Ramsey then discovered what happened. To protect their surviving child, they allegedly covered up the crime. They created an elaborate kidnapping story to mislead police. In 2008, the Boulder DA cleared John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, Burke Ramsey